Okay, guys, so I'm going to just start off talking a little bit sooner. It looks like I have started up my live stream. I'm getting a little bit better at this. I want to check to make sure that it's going actually the way I want, but I think we're doing good. So I'm going to go ahead and go. My connection says excellent. I should now have my chat. Apparently last week I made a mistake in my getting this to go, and I didn't have my OBS set up with YouTube, and because I used my OBS to start it, it would not allow chatting. And that's why my first video had 36 comments and this last one had 0 because I made a slight mistake. All right, so let me go ahead and get to this setup. All right, cool. So save that. That's for a future video on the home stuff. Took some notes when I was at work and got called in sick. When someone was sick and I got called in. I was going through and I found a bunch of old goblins and probably Void from like the late 90s. This old Void miniature. Don't know if I'm going to use it as a statue or what. There's some old stuff. Look at this. This is an ogre from the Chainmail series. Anyways, pretty cool stuff. Just got more miniatures to go through and whatnot. Okay, it is not moving over to that, which is interesting. So I don't have that set up. I'm looking at something else real quick here. Let me go to my channel. So if I go to, so it shows me live there. Let me make sure I'm not muted. There we go. All right, so I'm there. And yeah, I don't know what's going on with this. This looks a little weird. I feel like I'm off-centered or zoomed in too much. Let me check something real quick. Sorry for doing this in the middle of the video. Let's unlock the frame. Oh. Yes, so this is way too zoomed in, and that's part of the problem. That's weird. That's not what I want to do. I apologize for all this. I just noticed this is not a thing I want to do. That's better. I'm just trying to get more of the frame in there. I noticed that last week I was having a problem with this. All right, so I got that figured out. So it'll be a little bit better. Still is zoomed in, but more space to see things. All right, so where am I at with these guys? Well, I was thinking about this. I have some things I could help get these off of the ground, so I'm not holding the base. But then I'm up here, and you're never going to see the miniature. So I need some adjustment. And I don't know how I'm going to do that yet. And I may just make like a wider base that I can grab a hold of, and it's like sort of like a tray type of thing, so that this will work that way. But let me get into some of the colors I got going on here. Some parts are a little too red. I need to tone that back. Some parts are not enough yellow, and I need to go back over it with that wash. This fur is too red. I want to touch that up a little bit. I want to hit this silver with a little bit more silver. Other than a few touch-ups, the skin, I am super happy with how a great portion of it. Look at that color transition in the face. I just need to make it a little bit more, I need to make it make sense and make it a little bit more unified. But that pale flesh color to like a fleshy tone, like blood rich tone, I'm really digging. I just need to make the fur a little bit more standout-ish, teeth a little bit more like teeth, make the white around the eyes a little bit more white, and that's pretty good. The wood grain came out pretty solid. I might make that just a little bit of touch-up, and then I might hit this with a little bit more silver so it's not so black. Other than that, I am super happy with how this came out. You can see I got some touch-ups. I kind of ran out of my color a little bit. That's meant to be a little bit more red. But some of the flesh stuff I just need to touch up a little. This, I wasn't sure, 100% sure how this was going to look when it dried, because sometimes it changes a little bit. But this came out solid. Big fan of how this came out. I have like 14 total Bugbears, so I think I'm going to do all the Bugbears before I really move on, if that makes sense. And I'm probably going to increase over Thanksgiving what I'm doing. So excuse me while I drink some of my green drink here. And 2 of my Sonic Ice. Okay. I need to get some water because that's not okay. Let me go ahead and get some water and I'll be right back. So I think what this actually means is I'm going to end up probably buying more Bugbear than what I have to kind of round out the selection I have. So that when I get done painting them, I don't really come back to them for a while. Because I'm going to really have, I think, what I'm wanting from this group. So I have like 14 now. I paraded them across there. I have one that I'm doing modifications to. This guy here. A little bit of green stuff, augmentation there, which is very hard and dry. Took an Ogre Kingdom fist and put it on there, and that's going to be how I signify a leader. Not that I would do that with this one, but this could very well be done with that. This was my original skin tone. You can see how that looks different. I like this a lot more than that. And I have some duplicates. So I need to go ahead and figure out how I'm doing this. I'm probably going to do a different weapon than that one. But I have others. I have like 4 of these. And I have some cool ones with some old shields. That would be super nice in the same vein. I'd like to get more of these if I could. I don't think I want a second of these. Because this is going, I mean, he's wearing plate mail. I don't know how many bugbears I need wearing plate mail. He's basically going to be some sort of warrior priest. But new molds, let me know in the comments or talk to me about it here, and I'll look at as we go about what you think would be really cool. And then I'll go from there as far as possibilities. Making sure my audio is recording. Not you guys want to listen to me chomp on ice. But I want to make sure I at least am recording my audio. All right, so I need to bring the red back by hitting it with yellow. Some of that's going to be dry brushing. Some of that's not. Some of that's going to be basically like highlight brushing. It's like dry brushing, but you're a lot more precise. You're hitting it just on the tips, the very edges. So I might go across here and make that yellow just a little bit more yellow. Here's my yellow. It's a yellow flame from Apple Barrel, which I believe I got from like a Hobby Lobby type place. Michael's. My paint's fairly old, even though it's like 99 cents. So I'm going to need to add some water. I don't need this brush right in this second. Actually, I don't even know if that's right. It might have been this pale dark foil, foil. Might be my yellow. We'll see. I don't know if there's a lot of difference between the two. All right. So a little bit of moisture goes a long ways. I'm not trying to coat. I'm trying to get into these recesses, like right here. Make sure this is in my painting view. I want to get down that crevice a little bit, and I don't want this much paint on there. Basically, I want to turn that red back. I feel like I actually am too much pigment. You catch it early enough, you can peel that pigment back. I'm being a little supercilious here, going into my leather, because I'm going to show you how you can pull it off. You can see how it just comes off. Same thing here. I want the red removed, but I don't want to be so far removed there's no hint of red. I just don't want that strong of a color. Again, like right here. I just need that brought back a little. So I'm going to hit the high parts. I'm going to hit this armpit a little bit. This wrist, elbow area. Now, any color I do here is going to be a bit bold. But when I put that dark wash over it, it's going to fade. It's going to go very brown. So I like the middle part here on one side. I don't like it in the other. And I feel like I need to get to where I'm almost doing some stippling. So I'm going to dry my brush out by adding drier paint, because I don't want it going all the way into all the recesses. I do want that red in there, but I don't want it so red, like right there, that it looks out of the ordinary. Right here, right? Now, I grant you, at 3 foot, you're probably not seeing a lot of that small detail. I don't actually want it in the hair. Right here is a good example of that red. So I missed this area, and this was actually very white. And I tried to conceal it by hitting it with that red and a wash. But the fact that there wasn't yellow ended up being very noticeable. Okay, well that's coming out pretty good. Now again, it looks like it just looks like it's very yellow. And it looks bad. If I'm being fair, it looks bad. That probably should be leather, not red or yellow. In my room, if you remember, is the warmest room in the house, because I have like no airflow. So my wife is super cold, and that makes my room very hot. Front of this leg should be more dark fur, and I'm even going darker than what I went already. So I'm going to go ahead and just allow that to get dark. It's a little too thick. Like, not having something unified is part of the goal. I think this was the forearm that I had to fix, and there's no yellow in here. And this is why I am so looking forward to how these bugbears are going to look. Because I feel like when I get, I would say an army, but that's not it. It's a tribe, a family group, a cluster. What do you call a bunch of bugbears? Death? Don't know. Anyways, if I happen to have anyone paying attention to what I got going on right now, let me know if you have any questions. I'm totally here to talk about early Dungeons and Dragons. And in the last video, when no one could comment, I talked a heap about not Baldur's Gate, about keeping the Borderlands. So if you have any questions about that, this is a great time for that. I learned a lot in the time I ran keeping the Borderlands. Basically, I felt like it was a great sandbox. All right, here's an example of the problem. I'm going to use the backside of this brush here. That red is not from that bag. That red is from the fact I didn't have yellow in there. And the wash never really went in there and saturated that red. So it's just very full pigment. And that's like a great example of something that needs to be fixed. Same thing with the top of these muscles. Having it just that red with the brown over it really makes it look like it's just a brown and red. I need that yellow to bring the highs up just a little bit. Something to that. That's what I want in the end. This is the stomach I want. This little color right in here is the thing I want to fix. Just this little bit. Just that little section. And when I hit back over it with the dark pigment color, I'm hoping to just very so little augment that. The biggest things I saw was the back of the legs. Super happy how this like beige came out. So parts went off really well. And when I go back over this with the beige again, I feel like it's going to pull it together. I had to get just a little bit more of a... I want to kind of get in these recesses just a little bit. Like I did in that first miniature, but not quite that yellow. So I can get things like in that armpit right there. Knowing that, yeah, it might look a little yellow in some places, but by the time that wash hits again, it's going to be good. And I'm really going to be hitting this wash this time. Very targeted. All right, so I got that. I need to fix that blue. This blue kind of ran on me. I want to say it's like pigment control issues, not that I did it too soon or anything. I just feel like this blue maybe doesn't have quite the staying power that even the yellow or the green had. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some water instead of try and recreate that and go back over it. I'm just going to water down this blue and just kind of do like a glazing technique with a real thin wash, a blue wash over blue, to kind of make the parts that turned white still be blue. And I have a feeling when this dries, it will come out better than what it looks right now. It doesn't look bad. This doesn't look bad. This is closer to what I want. It's real bad through here. Like the dark parts are good. They're dark. But the parts that should have been on the surface just got a little whitewashed. They were just not blue. It's like super faded jeans. I didn't actually want it like that. And you'll find certain colors are like that. Welcome to those who are joining me. You're free to lurk or just hang out. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I totally dig it. This is my 3 of my like 14 bugbear I have. I'm probably going to be painting all my bugbear and probably be buying some more off of some sites or whatever here in the near future. All right, I'm going to touch up the silver over here with a more shiny silver. Just to give that little, oops, I gotta shake this one. Just to make it look a little bit more metal and less aluminum. I'm going to use a different brush and come back to that. This one's just a little bit smaller. There was a little bit of paint medium in the silver that came out first. So mixing that in won't actually hurt the paint. It's just going to make it a little less viscous, take away some of the viscosity. It's natural for the paint to have that. And it's not going to make a huge adjustment. Excuse me. Speaking English is hard today for whatever reason. I'm just trying to, any part that looks a little tinny or like it's more aluminum or like the paint maybe has worn through and you're seeing the gray behind. I'm just kind of touching that up just a little bit. I'll probably hit this with a non-brown wash and just go over parts of it with like a dark wash. But basically, any part that's super flat or raised, I don't know if you can really see the difference between the two. You should be able to see it like right here at the base of that spine. Just a second ago, I kind of took away that stain. I'll do the same thing here. So I'm going to come across here and it's just going to take away that part that makes it look like weathered aluminum. You'll see it across these scales. So you see how the scales are right here? And how they kind of look like they're like aluminum, but when I go across them with the silver, it kind of brings out the edge and it turns it from like an aluminum look to something that's glinting under the light almost, if that makes sense. If you were doing scales to like a dragon, you kind of almost have to pick your direction of lighting if you're going to do that. I've seen some really cool effects with that. In this, I'm not really trying to get that, but I think if you look at these two, this one here looks more like aluminum. And this looks more like it's like polished steel, if that makes sense. Like something that's oiled and cared for. Yeah, I think it looks a little bit more like it's got depth. Like as I come across this, you're going to see the depth of like how deep all the scales look. Is probably going to seem like they look like they're deeper. If that makes sense. So have you guys ever played any of the old modules? Or have questions about one of them in specific? I don't have all the modules, but I do have a lot of them. For those who don't know, I've been running a live or doing a live videos and playing a solo game in original Dungeons and Dragons, more because I want to learn it. I started playing in 1989 after original came out, actually in second edition, and that was where I learned, where I cut my teeth, per se. And in the first video, I had showed some pictures, and they were pretty terrible, of miniatures I painted in the late 80s, early 90s. I feel like that looks so much better. Now I'm going to go back over this. Again, I'm just trying to hit the little parts that probably has been used to weaponize, been used to strike things, or has been cared for, or not quite as weathered. So some of these flat open areas, or if I got too much wash at the base of a spike, I'll fix it. It looks like on the main chat in front of me, it's about a 20-second delay. So if you post something and I don't talk to you for 20 seconds about it, I apologize up front. That just seems to be what the situation is right now. My chat over here, though, it seems to be a little bit more faster updating the OBS one. But I'm still learning how this works. I don't do a lot of live streams. I'm going to be moving towards Homes Edition, which is the revisement to original Dungeons and Dragons that came out, depending on what version, came out in between, some people say as early as 76, but I believe officially it came out in 77. 76, 77. But they did a couple reprints. I want to say they did 4 or 5, maybe 6 reprints. By reprints, I mean basically they sold out and had to make more. But in between each one of those, they were making continuous changes. Sort of a living document in many ways. So, for example, the earliest version of Dungeons and Dragons said the word Hobbit in it. Later, they tried to remove it and they failed, and then they tried again and they actually succeeded. By the time Holmes came around, they were not saying Hobbit anymore, but they had halflings. And thieves actually were a class in the game. For those who didn't know, thieves were not in the original 1974 rules. They were part of the Greyhawk supplement of 75. Also in 75, you had Blackmore, which I've been doing a lot of videos on. This next week's video is actually going to be a Blackmore video, and I'm going to be talking about the Temple of the Frog. Which, spoilers, I guess, if you're watching, you get to get some spoilers, is not truly a module. It's more of a campaign setting. So they created campaign settings, in my opinion, even though they didn't necessarily know it at the time, or duplicate it, because I don't think they knew what they had. Because shortly after that, Arneson left TSR in a huff. They were having creative differences. And he went and created something called the First Fantasy Campaign, based on the Blackmore setting, which was his home game. And then he got sued by TSR and was told basically to stop. All right, so that came out pretty good. I'm going to leave the belt buckle alone for right now. That's the last silver part. I've got the yellow kind of augmented as part of one of the things I wanted to do. Got the blue fixed. I think I'm going to do the fur. And then I'm going to go to some stuff on the basing. And then we'll go back and try and do the dyeing of the skin to try and get the skin right. But I need to do fur first. And I'm going to save the eyes and all that for when things dry, which may be today or may not be. All right, so I have black. I do have some washes and whatnot. I know what those things are. I tend to just not. This is going to be a very dark brown, and I'm not looking to I'm not looking to make it too watery, but I do need to make it somewhat watery. I'm just getting over being sick. If you watched any of my videos, you might have seen that. I had a very hoarse throat. So these colors are not mixing very well because I'm missing median. I'm just using water currently. But see, sort of a grayish brown in the end is what it's going to be, which is fine. Grayish brown, not heavily put on, over a reddish brown that's going to come out interesting. So I am using a larger brush than I normally would be using. Anyways, the Temple of the Frog module campaign, whatever you want to call it. The reason why I don't think it's a module as much as I think it's sort of a campaign is because it's not designed for a group. It's really designed for a lot of groups. They talk about the fact that literally there could be 1,000 guards plus troops. The whole thing is being run by a nihilistic, one might say evil. I definitely would think evil would be a great descriptor. A group of humanoids, mostly humans actually, that hate humanoid races and really want to perfect nature things like frogs and believe humans are the problem. As I said, they're nihilistic. So interesting in that way. But there's hundreds of frogs. There's thousands of people, like literally over 1,000 people that are considered to be like soldiers and guards. Plus people that just live there, plus priesthood, plus other. And I say other because I don't necessarily want to give all the spoilers, but let's just say this first campaign was a doozy and was extremely sci-fi. So I know this looks like I've really kind of overdone this. Part of that is because having darker fur is going to make the skin parts pop more. Like the lip. If you had red brown fur next to a red yellow lip with a brown black wash over it, you're going to see nothing. You're losing the detail. By putting this dark negative around fine detail, you make the rest of the stuff stand out. So, yeah, that's my views on those things. And again, I'm not trying to give too many secrets away about the Blackmore Temple of the Frog setting. I do find it very interesting, and I feel like there's some research I still got to go out and do more than what you find in the actual book. There's been some people that have interviewed, like so-and-so, High Priest of the Frog. Well, that sounds like there's probably some information in that interview with the person who played the character who was the High Priest of the Frog. And that concept right there, I think, says a lot about how evil characters existed in Dave Arneson's world. So, for example, if you were wanting to play an anti-hero and you wanted to play a person who is a bad guy, and you ended up playing a cleric of the frog, and you were kind of the bad guy, the villain, and travel around with other villainous people, I think that's kind of fun and interesting. Because there's so much a good referee or dungeon master could pull from, especially if you're running multiple campaigns at the same time, all in the same time frame, same persistent time. You almost want the bad guys defined in that way. You want the big reveal of a party member who's been kind of crappy with everyone. You're like, I'm not just a jerk. I'm a priest of the frog. I hate you not because you took my Wheaties or because we disagree politically, but because I'm a nihilist and I think humanity's evil. That to me feels way better than just saying my character's chaotic evil, therefore I do bad things. And where does that come from? Well, as I've talked about in my videos, I think it comes a lot from the Brownstein type of mentality. We're going to have a banana republic, and we're going to have people from Prussia, and we're going to have people from the Soviets, and we're going to have people that are doing this and that who are trying to be rebels, and we're going to have people play the chief of police as well as the anarchists at the college, and we're going to do like this little back and forth over a certain setting. And that's the kind of thing. That's where you get games where someone plays the alchemist or someone plays the sage. Two classes I talk about that were not actually official classes and were never a full class, but were kind of like a person who identified themselves as that and had certain abilities to do things in there. And for some people, they kind of required them to do things. Now here's an interesting thing, and I'm going to leave this, but it's kind of fun. So if you look up here, this is brown. I'm going to go over it with some of this I got in my paint right now. Same batch. Look how darker that is. I'm literally creating like a dark streak. His beard in the bottom is a darker color than the hair on top of his head. And that's kind of an accident, but kind of what happens when you don't have your paints perfectly matched in like a paint medium. in a paint pot, all squared away. Perfect. And that's kind of how you get the flesh that I have already. Which is kind of the whole point of what I'm doing here. Now it's getting a little thick, so I'm going to go over it with some water and touch down that viscosity some, which allows the paint to smooth, to transition. Yep, that's how I do things. I guess it's sort of the push and pull and the acceptance that I'm not trying to paint a Golden Demon level miniature. I'm just trying to paint my Bugbear for my D&D game. They were talking in an earlier live stream about I should have the party run into my tribe of Bugbear. And I was like, not until they get higher level. Like, Bugbear are not designed to be run into at low levels. That's a great way to end your party. All right, that's going to look a little blocky, but when I go over that with that wash, it's going to make a lot of this not so blocky. Here's the before and after. You can see that being a subtle change, this being a very much more drastic change. And I like the second more. I could for sure not have all my Bugbears be so dark-haired. But I would want that to kind of be sort of the one-off versus a large portion of them. Like if you have the one Bugbear that just doesn't quite fit in, I think that works. Or if you have a different group of molds or miniatures and they're painted different skin tone, different color patterns, sometimes they just come off as being different. And then they seem like they're a different species. I don't quite have that the way I want in my goblins, but I definitely have different types of goblins. Again, I talked about that in an earlier one too, but I could certainly rehash it for those who don't know how I do my goblins. For all I know, you could be the original two that watched my stream the first time, and I don't want to just be talking about the same stuff. Yeah, see? That's looking a lot better. Anyways, Homes Edition, right? Coming out after the start of the year. I'm going to be doing some videos on Homes Edition, the revision, I should say. I actually have the Homes box set. If people want, I'll go ahead and... Thank you for the like, by the way. If people want, I'll go ahead and pull that out and kind of thumb through it here in a minute, because I have a little bit of time while I let my paint dry after this color. I could either do basing Or I could bring out my box, talk about it. I'm going to get right in here. You really can't see it, I don't think, in the camera. And I have my window so I can look over and see how things look on your screen, kind of blocked by a chat box. So it's not perfect. And I realize I kind of had like this wraparound hair. I'm going to kind of hit that dark right through here. I don't know if those are supposed to be veins popping out of like the ear, neck area, or if that's supposed to be hair. I'm going to paint it dark like hair and move on. Okay. I don't think it's quite. I think it was supposed to be veins. I just don't think it came off very well. Probably because I glued it wrong or whatever. Well, blame me. All right, so now we are waiting for that to dry just a little bit. Move these over here. Let me grab my box set. So this here is the Homes Edition box set. This is my version of it. I have like the 4th printing, I want to say. Mine came with a module, which is not currently in here. But yeah. It's supposed to come with Search of the Unknown. And I have that module a couple times, actually. So my version came out in 1978. I don't know if you can see that very well. It's kind of off camera. I'll bring it up here. And there it goes. You can see that. And this is what the cover art looked like back in the day. Anyways, what makes this interesting is all the other revisions, editions of the game, you could kind of find PDFs of. And I don't think there's a legal copy or PDF of this game. Some of the stuff is more clarified, like the parry. Technically, there was parry in man-to-man combat, but you had to go literally back to chainmail to find it. They only made the first 3 levels playable. Some actual dwarves. Cool dwarves. Which is why I think this was able to work, because they didn't have to cover as much. And I think that is helpful. They kind of followed this pathway in the basic books that move forward with this. For example, let me put this box set back. Let me grab my other 2 box sets. In 1981, they came out with the B and the X series, and they called it BX. This is by Mulvey, the basic and the expert set. In 1983, they came out with the same thing again, but they called it the Bic Me series because it had basic, expert, champion, master, and immortal. A few more levels of it. And this one came with several things, including Keeping the Borderlands. So I have my actual official copy of Keeping the Borderlands. They were designed to be in 3-ring binders back in the day. Similar layout. In the basic box set, it was up to 3rd level. Then when they came out with the expert box set, it was up to 14th level, which is where BX stopped. But there was a plan for champion. They just never made it. They changed everything and went a whole different way. And this one came out with X1, Isles of Dread. Again, love this art right here. But this is designed for 3rd to 14th level. Champion level, I assume, was going to be 15th to 20th. And that would be probably where one could consider it stopping. Now, on champion and Bigme went higher. But we'll never know. Frank Mercer took over Bigme, and that one went on forever. Like 2005 or 6 was the last supplement that came out for Bigme and all the Gaza tier stuff and the known world. And that's literally after AD&D 2nd edition died. That's literally how long that went. And for those who don't know, below this box set where I'm going to go back over here and drop these off, I have the entire orange bound, orange spine AD&D 1st edition set. It's not really a set, but collection. Which had things like, they were the same binding as the Fiend Folio, but the Fiend Folio was not orange bound. It was kind of a higher quality, to be honest. They were very well bound books, which is part of the love for them. But yeah. So I'm going to grab some of this brown and this black. I'm going to move it over a tray, and I'm going to really kind of water it down. I'm going to grab a little bit more because I'm going to need a lot more. And I'm kind of pouring a little bit of water over every time I do this. Because I want to get a lot of the paint off of the brush, but that's because I really need a lot. I ran out last time and I didn't like that. So I'm going to make sure I hopefully have more than I need. Thank you for hanging out with me for a little bit if you're just chilling. If my chat is screwed up and I can't actually have people chatting, which I don't think is the case at this point, that was my problem last week. Just tell me in a different video. I literally respond to 100% of people's chat after the video goes live. And I would love to know if I am having a problem. I'm very appreciative to learn such things, shall we say. Okay, we got the nice dark, but now it just needs to be watered down some. I think I'm pretty close. So I'm going to go back in here. Kind of tone that back. Yeah, there we go. Like, I wish I had a little bit of yellow over there. Maybe I'll just touch it with a little bit of brown. Just to kind of break that red. See, I'm just trying to create that negative space. Like right here. I don't want that red. Right there below the chin. So I'm going to go back into that beard color a little bit. I'm going to get most of the paint off the brush again because I got a little bit where I didn't want it. And pull that off there just a little bit. So I don't mind that color right there. And you can see how much better that is. Hit this with that wash right here in the ear. Tie that spot in just a little bit. Just kind of seesaw it back and forth into where I want it. If you were here for the earlier in the video when I was turning all this red into yellow, this is me pulling it back in the spectrum I want it in. Sort of a red to yellow flesh tone. Now, down here in the feet, I'm going to get rid of some of that white. I don't know if I'm going to pull the toenails out or how much I'm actually going to do with the nails. It's kind of like teeth. Probably going to do some. I'm not wanting to necessarily do a lot. All right. Again, just trying to get the recesses, not the part that stands out. All right, well, that's coming along pretty good. I'm a lot happier with that part. I'm a lot happier with that darker fur. That'll allow me to maybe touch it with a lighter color and kind of pull it out. This one had a lot of yellow through here. So when I hit this and I pull it back to that more flesh tone, we'll see how that works out. I have a feeling it's going to be more yellow than other ones and other parts of its body, but I'll be able to pull it within a normal range. I don't want too much buildup in the armpits though. Though I want to have some, I don't want too much. Again, pulling in the neck and the hair to kind of even that out some. Here's going to be a great example of that red to yellow where it's flexing. I think that's going to be good, especially when that dries. We have to hit the back of this leg. You can see how yellow it is. We're going to do this a couple times because, again, I'm not trying to get the recesses insanely dark, but I didn't like how red it was. Like, it bothered me for several days while I sat here and did other things, made videos for my channel. I literally sat here going, I need to stream more. There are things I want to fix. And I have to wait until Wednesday. And the reality is, I don't have to wait till Wednesday. I just need to stream more. So, don't look at me to be streaming less. Look at me to be streaming probably more. And not everything has to be streamed. But if I feel like I'm doing something positive, then I think that's good. I think it'd also be fun to kind of have like a community post where people post pictures, maybe on like Facebook or something. People post pictures of their bugbears they're painting. And we just kind of paint bugbears together. I have a lot of bugbears, like 14 as of right now. And if I go buy more, we could have many weeks of painting bugbears. And whenever we go to dwarves, oh my lord. Oh, I was literally talking with a buddy of mine who plays Warhammer 40k, and he was telling me they're bringing squats back. If you don't know what squats are sci-fi version of dwarves. And they had them in the 80s. In the late 90s, they kind of got rid of them. So that would be like first and second, maybe third edition of 40k. And then they kind of moved away from it. And no one knows why, because they were not the most popular, but they were not unloved. We just think maybe it was a design choice by the developers. Like they didn't necessarily like them. All right, so I'm going to give that a second because I don't want to go over that too much. I am going to go over this front foot, which is very red, and kind of bring that back to something less red. I don't know if you can hear my son's girlfriend and my son in the background. They just came home. Anyways, let me let that go for a second. We're going to let that dry. I'm going to go over this with a different color. And I'm going to hit it with a highlight. Something unrealistic. And I'm going to then tone that back with like a brown. Sort of the reverse. No. Well, the reverse of some painting styles. So some painting styles you dry brush and then, or you do the dark colors and then you end with the high colors and you don't have a lot of it. And some people, they just do like washes over everything. In this situation, I'm doing like a real deep base. This feels like it's a lot of white. It's supposed to be parchment, like a yellow brown. And this is too brown, too white. My wife is coming home. I think that's what my phone was telling me. Yes. Let me get a little bit more fleshy. Sunkissed peach in parchment. Sounds interesting. Kind of sounds like an impossible color combo to get back to be honest. But I'm going to kind of dry brush this. And when I hit this with a brown wash, what will end up happening is it won't affect the base color a lot, but it's going to change the highlight parts pretty well. And this isn't going to be anything super special. I'm just going to be... This is more for separation. And this is going to be concealed a lot by flock. This has a similar type of technique as to someone who primes their models black and then dry brushes it white. It's a similar thing. And I am not worried at all. One sec. All right, so you can kind of see how that's coming out. And this is a pretty fast, hot mess of a way to paint. But this is a very base layer. Base layer is not probably the right way of putting it. This is an early layer. And when I could actually go over this with a green wash, and it will come out as sort of like a deep flock. That will be different texture. And then this would be great with a light peppering of a different color flock. So someone could do something like this and then have like snow and like grass, because it's a different texture, and you could literally like pepper snow over it, and because you have the white in places, it's not going to look bad. It's funny as I have some old, I don't know if it's like static grass. It's kind of, I put these miniatures together probably a decade ago. But because I have such dark hair in this now, I don't want to have dark earth and dark fur. I want them to be separated. Sorry, I had to redirect my daughter. All right, so now that's there. I'm going to go back over some of this that's a little too yellow. And the goal is to bring this back just a little bit more. And you can see how much better that looks. Yeah, that looks a lot better. I'm so much happier I did this. I got this little dark spot here. That needs to be dark, not red.
Okay, Meg. Do you know how to turn off the water? Yeah. Okay. But actually, I think I forgot. Literally just twist the knob. But, Tommy. Here. I'm not too sure. But go ahead and, Which way did you turn them off?
It's funny listening to my daughter and my son, who is older's girlfriend, talking to each other about which way I turn a knob to turn the bath water on.
Okay. Sorry, it's because I don't want it overflowing.
I may have to go help with that.
You got it? Okay, I think I'm gonna let it rest a little bit. Okay. And then I'm gonna go.
When you get a chance to hear my daughter, you will understand how she is different.
If you need help, scream. Yeah? If you need help, let me know. I don't know. Okay.
All right. And I don't mean different in a bad way. I mean, her choice of phrasing is phrasing sentences and words are different than most kids her age. So if you notice, I put a little bit of that over the tan. That kind of gives me an idea of what that would look like. Okay. Well, that is coming along pretty nicely. So this is kind of like how I want the highs and the lows. But I got some over here I have to fix. I think I missed a spot completely, like coming and going. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Right here, I have what looks like brown fur painted in the middle of the thigh muscle. Not ideal. I also have this a little bit too red right here. So I'll do a little bit more on the touch-up. However, seeing that brown over that makes me really want to do the nails that color. So before I lose that, I'm going to do the teeth and the nails in this cream color. I might do the eyes this way too. Let me look at this. That's not bad. Again, it's the treatment you do afterwards that's going to make all the difference on this. And I am going to cover up the toenails and the feet with different layers. And I got to fix a little bit right there. Let me change brushes. So that brush was not perfectly clean when I started. If you notice, the first time it came out, it was a little bit cream colored. That didn't help anything. But I'll come back to this. I feel like I need to do the eyes first. Again, it's just about hitting the high points. If I was doing like a golden demon or something like that, or some sort of painting competition thing, I would pick each tooth out. I would do different shades between warm and cold on the teeth and the eyes. I wouldn't be doing just sort of a uniform, this is not white, but this is my extreme highlight. And of course the toenails would be different. But we're doing 14 to probably 20 bugbears. And they're supposed to be really nice from 3 feet away. And while I'll be taking pictures with a camera, that will make them probably too detailed. It's all right. So, how do I clean my brushes? I get them wet. I put them in the crease where I have like these natural creases in my hand. I can do it that way. On stuff that has a real fine tip, I am a little bit old school. I just put it in my mouth and use my mouth. Don't do that with enamels. Acrylics are pretty close to completely toxic free, so you don't have as much problems. They're not something I would want to just ingest, but you're pretty well off. All right, so that little bit of paint is going to dry quickly. None of it is very thick. I'm going to go back over this, kind of fill this out just a little bit, tone it back. don't necessarily want pearly whites and beaming white eyes, and there is a time and a place for everything, and it's also going to give me an opportunity to go back and touch up things like the ears that might be a little too red or yellow. Fix those things. That thigh muscle over here that had the brown over it, I'm not going to go over the high part as much as I'm going to go around the muscle, and I'm going to try and bring that muscle tone back in. And that will be better. And that's about the color of tone I want. You can see the fingernails pop. The eyes are going to be fine. I'm going to go over it with a black pupil. The white part of the eye is actually almost going to fade away. I'm going to have to use a really small brush. I don't even think any of my cheap brushes are that small. So I'll probably break out a better brush for that part. I'm probably going to do a community post this week, showing my progress on my bugbears. But I am probably going to do ogres at some point in time. And I'm probably going to go back with the Ogre Kingdoms as my ogre of choice for at least some of my ogres. Because I do have different types of ogres. And my ogres to the south of the Southern Kingdom are how would I describe them? They practice blood magic, and they are closer to infernal powers, shall we say. Just touching that back a little bit. That is the one I did prior. I'm going to leave that thigh alone. I feel like I need to go over it with a red wash and then come back. But you can see how that teeth come out so much better. Yeah, see? So much better. Turn that yellow back just a little bit. Got rid of that red in places I don't want the red. Let's fix that thigh a little bit with a sort of a red dry brush. Again, I'm just using the same brush. It's mostly clean. And the reason why I'm going over this like this with this red is I am not getting the colors I want, and it's just turning like black. And the reason why that is because it was a very dark color, and then I was going over it with yellow, which turned brown, and then I went over it with a wash, which turned browner and blacker, and I wasn't getting the lift. Dad? One sec. I have to go help my daughter. I will be right back. But while I do this, I'm going to fix this leg a little bit. There's too much water. Uh-oh. I might have to let it sit. What I'm doing is just pulling a little bit off the top here. And then trying to okay, we're good. Okay, so you can see I got the highlights there. That is so close to that already. It's not even a problem. I'm going to let this dry for 30, 40 seconds. Give me a minute. Thank you for the 3 of you that are watching right now. I'm going to go adjust my daughter's water temperature real quick, and then we will fix that and come back to it. 1 second. Well, thank you very much for sticking around, and sorry about that. Let's go ahead and fix this leg, shall we? You can see how it kind of dried, and it's got that yellow to it. Kind of just tap that across there. And then pull it back a little. But essentially, I don't know if anyone could ever tell, unless they watch this video, that there was any problems with that leg. Certainly not at 3 or 4 feet. All right, so let me make sure. I could touch that a little bit. I just don't want it quite that yellow. I want the hint of yellow. I don't want the outright statement of yellow. And then we will look at this. Ah, see, we got more here we have to get. So my daughter has named her dog Mufasa. It is half Pomeranian and half Chihuahua. We jokingly nicked it. Well, I'm kind of came up with it at first. And then my daughter, being my daughter, kind of came up with the whole story. But it's Mufasa. And I always said it was a Pomeranian. So Pomeranian, Chihuahua, so it's a Pomawa. A Pomawayan. And I kind of had like that joke. And then she came up with Mufasa, King of Pomawa, which is ridiculous and awesome at the same time. Definitely her father's child. So, all right, I think we're down to where we need the eyes. I'm going to do a little bit across here. Just for a little bit more separation where on the ones that need it. I don't think I do on that one. All right, let me get a good brush. I have the brushes my mom and dad got me a couple years ago for Christmas. I think they're down here. I got stuff kind of tucked everywhere. This was the little paint case my mom and dad got me. Little, I have no idea. They thought this was a super fancy kit. It's ergonomic. They have the aught size in the bottom. It's called a round. This is a round type of tip. It's going to be good for eyes. Fairly good. It is not the smallest eye brush I've ever had. Not in the least. But it's a pretty good one. I'm just going to grab some of that black paint from the darker, blacker part of that. And then do this. Here we go. First eye done. Yeah, it's not bad. Pretty good eyes. All right, so I think I'm down to, I'm going to paint this base so I get the way I want, probably a contrasting color, like green maybe. And then I'm going to paint the actual around the base in black. That eye is a little okay. Okay, so his left eye is a little wide-eyed, and that's because there was so much white left behind there. But for a 3-foot paint job, I think we're fine. Okay. And I'm trying to figure out this right eye here. I didn't put that pupil in there. So it's just kind of like the sculpt line of it, which is a weird, because it's kind of facing outward like a fish. Trying to fix that. Yeah, always one. I gotta decide what's wrong with it. Okay, so I don't like the top. That's better. I think the way it was just weird. Like it kind of had that recess. Like it'd be fine if it was facing the right direction, but it wasn't. I know this is a little wet to go right back over it again, but I think eyes are one of those you can get away with. That's better. He looks a little bit angry in that one now. Okay. This brush is pretty good. Put this back in my case. Save it for later. So I actually was talking with a buddy of mine, and I was telling him about how much I was getting back into painting and all this. And he was like, talking about the squats and all the futuristic dwarves and all that, and how that'd be really cool for Necromunda, and I was agreeing with him. But I think also it kind of got me back into, I used to do this for a living, like paint miniatures for a living for people. And he was one of the people that bought a lot of miniatures. Like, there's people who spent more money with me than others when I had my painting business for about 14 months. He spent the most. And when he says, hey, I got a buddy, and maybe me, that wants you to paint some 40K miniatures, I have to kind of listen to it. Because it's not like a random stranger on the internet probably just talking about how they want to do things and may or may not have any money for it. Not that I want to get back into painting miniatures for a living business. Not that many of the miniatures I would paint for anyone on my channel would want me to paint. Like, no one's going to, I don't think people are going to be interested in me painting miniatures. If I am wrong, please let me know. That'd be interesting. We'll see how this looks over that white. I feel like that's too stark. Now, mind you, I'm going to go back over this with a flock. So this is just to get highs and low greens. And then when I go over it with a flock, um, it's just going to look layered. I'm actually going to go over into the white some, because that ensures that when the black for the base comes out over it, it's going to be a real straight, rigid line. And I'm not worried about this defectiveness in the front here, as by the time we get done with the flocking, it's going to be indistinguishable and it's going to look natural. So if you're painting dark miniatures, and you have the option, uh, go over with a lively, earthy, maybe warm if the color is primarily cool. If that doesn't make sense, I can always talk to you about what that means. Um, but essentially, the contrast is good. You want the miniature to stand out. So I painted that sort of that brown color initially to get an understanding for what it looked like. And I went over it with a dry brush to get an understanding for highs and lows, like you would do a white over a black primed miniature. But in this case, it was a brown and it was like a parchment white. So a cream color almost. I feel like I need to fix that little section right there. And then that gave me sort of layers. And then when I go over it with the flock, which is actually a three-dimensional thing, it's going to be pretty cool. Also with flock, you can do several colors together, put it in a Tupperware, and then shake it up. And then you have your different colors, and then that can be your textures for, like, this is my swamp, this is my dried Sierra, this is my forest, this is my leaf layer. Because first, this is wet. There's a glob of green there. Anyways, it's always good to have these colors so when you're painting a larger army, it kind of comes out consistent looking. Now, me recording this and talking about this and doing things I've done in other basic ideas makes this easier. I'm sorry, we were talking to nothing. So I'm not advertising Sonic or anything. My wife went and got me another Sonic cup because I didn't want to have a Red Bull so late at night. Essentially, that one had Red Bull in it. This one doesn't. I'll save that for tomorrow. I jokingly stated I would do that um, first thing in the morning because that's healthy. Start your day off with a Red Bull. I'm joking, of course. In a perfect world, I wouldn't have Red Bull. I wouldn't need it. In general, I try not to because I actually try and watch. Say, all right, so my wife just brought me more to drink. This is a little different, more of the adult beverage. Anyways, I'm going to see if my flock is here. I think I got flock in this drawers over here. Since I'm just kind of getting things set up, I don't know if I have everything specifically where I want it. All right. I'm going to go over this a couple times just because I don't want to have brush marks.
What?
So I'm kind of doing it in thinner layers. But I need to let it dry in between. And I think if you look at how it was before and how it looks now, you'll see there's a pretty big difference in how clean it looks.
I'm coming. You gotta get out. Stay.
So there's some old marks on here um, that don't make it look good. I'm going to probably put some rocks on here and I'll just cover that up with that. That'd be like end of the paint augments, little touch-ups. What this was is these bases actually were for a game called War Machine or Hordes, made by Pioneer Press, I want to say. I think that's right. Privateer Press. Is that right? I think so. I have a lot of War Machine and Horde miniatures. They're going to make up some of the more odd stuff I have, like dwarves riding sheep. I might make those as statues though, because I don't know if I actually want people riding that big a sheep in my world. They're massive sheep. Let me go ahead and tend to my drink real quick. Don't tell my wife. She made a bad choice. It's not what I drank. Cherry limeade. It's good. This mixture, interesting. We'll see. Can I fix it? Not really. That's pretty bad. I'll come back to that. Okay, so what do I have here? Things I need to do right now. Need to fix that leg. So I don't necessarily need a stark line on this. I'm looking at my thing and it says I got no concurrent, but I've had 5 views. So I guess I don't have anyone watching right now, which is interesting. But I have had quite a few. So I'm wondering why they may have bounced. If you find this stream and there's a reason why you bounced, I would love to hear what that reason was. All right, so you can see here that leg comes back where the hair is more yellow, but not as dark. And then I hit it with this wash. And you really can't see it. Yeah. I don't think if you knew the blue pant one was the one that had that you would know to look for it. I think that's pretty good. All right, so now we're going to let that dry. I'm going to see if I can find some flock real quick and adjust my drink. More bearable. Come back to that. Let me show something that I'm kind of excited for while I still look for my flock. I bought a bunch of 3D printed like doors and tools and, excuse me, these type of things. And this is pretty cool. It's going to kind of unify my doors, but they're a little narrow, but whatever. But while I was there, I also bought bottles. And this will be used for like tables and wine racks and all sorts of stuff like that. And I have a lot. Like, I bought too many. I should have bought one of these. And I have 2 packs. And then some of the things I should have bought multiple packs of. I only bought one. These were more expensive. I am going to go back and buy more. You can tell these are 3D printed because it still got the STL fragments to pull off. But these are so cool. And I want to put like Tyranid arms, like the Hormagaunts and Termagants arms on this to make it look like they're Myconids. And I actually have some Myconids. But so cool. I need one more of each, in my opinion. And I got this off of Green Stuff World. They're out of like New Zealand. So don't need more doors. I need more mushrooms. For whenever I start doing my Underdark stuff, I want to paint up some to look like maybe like the Screamers and that type of stuff. And the yellow mold. Yeah. Anyways, I found that while I was looking for flock. Let me go see if I can continue to find flock while this dries. I will save flock for next week. Let me go over some of the stuff I have, though. So, my initial thoughts for mushrooms were these little glass beads. A little bit of green stuff, and they'd be good. Flowers, or things for ponds, repainted, of course. And these would look super cool. In this extremely fragrant section are herbs. And these would be used for different like pieces of lettuce and terrain and whatnot someday in the future when I really get into my model building stuff. Which I have a huge want to do. So much that I literally have like paper cutters and foam cutters and rollers. So many things. From floor designs like that to mud to rock. Everything. And this, there are several, I got bit by something in the back of my neck. There are so many ways these can be used for like structures, walls, flooring, and you use it with ceiling, like caulk for like bathtubs. Something like this works really well. You put it over wax paper, and then you go ahead and let that get rolled out, kind of dry, that type of stuff. And then you hit with your roller, and presto, boom, you have your terrain. And then it's a flexible piece of thing that dries and can peel off of the wax paper, no problem. And again, more tools, including makeup kits for like weathering and all sorts of tools and reverse tweezers to actual tweezers. You've seen me use some of this stuff already. I have a very expansive list, and that's part of what I need to do is get this area over here set up so I have all these things at my hand and I'm able to use them. Okay, so I'm not going to do the flocking right now. The skin tone is pretty good. I'm going to go back over the basing, the base itself. And then next week we'll start off with the flocking of this. I'm going to do this guy, not necessarily next week, just the next time I do this live stream. And I'm probably going to do this guy and this guy with let's see here. I kind of like having three. This guy I'm probably going to do off stream. And I might pull him off his base and get him on one of these bases. So interesting. This mud style I did here is a mixture of ceiling caulk, in this case it was white initially, with like grit, and then static grass. So this is going to be different. I'm probably going to pull that off of the base and scrape the base, save that for a different one. Part of the redoing is I might just strip this whole model and start over. I think I will. Matter of fact, maybe that's what I'll do with this. I'll go ahead and strip this and then do this together and then get a new weapon for this, which I have plenty of weapons. So this will be my next group of three. And then I have another group of three. Then I have a group of 4 that are real simple, like that. Those guys. And then we'll see what I buy. I'll start looking for bugbears. If you have any good design ideas, let me know in the comments below and I'll check it out. All right, let me go ahead and get a little bit more black paint because that's drying up pretty good. And get the next layer on. And then I think I'll call it. Unless anyone has any comments or thoughts. Otherwise, I'll just seal these guys up and move on. So after you put the first layer on, you can go across with a second layer thicker. It tends to adhere better and it doesn't have the same chance of lines, and it kind of just glosses right over, as you can see, because this is significantly thicker. All right. Anyways, guys, if you're watching this far into it and you've listened to me just paint maybe the background noise of my children watching a Disney movie or something in the background, which I don't think you can actually hear. What are your thoughts about the colors I've done? Do you like this? Do you feel like this is realistic, terrifying maybe? I think it's on the border of being almost too dark. Let me switch views. Okay. So do you feel like it's on the verge of being too dark? Or is it on the verge of, I feel like it's on the verge of being too dark. It's not too grotesque. The silver really makes that miniature stand out. And it looks vaguely human. It doesn't look goblin. And bugbears are supposed to be goblin. But I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I like the concept of the bugbear being a part of the goblin species. They're like the ogres of the goblin world, the 7-foot tall goblins. The hobgoblins are supposed to be the elves of the goblin world, and the goblins are the humans of the goblin world. I don't know. I kind of like my hobgoblins being pink, which that pink and the yellow, the red and the yellow, does that. So I think that's what I'm going to go with. It's different. It's going to stand out. I don't think I'm going to treat hobgoblins as goblins in my world, though. Just like I don't treat orcs as a sub-race of humans, if that makes sense. I have played with half-orcs. I like half-orcs. I like the idea of barbaric, beastie-ish humanoids. I don't like, I guess, the modern interpretation of how that plays and looks like, if that makes sense. Anyways, we didn't do a lot of talking about different things, and we didn't have any questions this time, which is just fine. I can talk for a couple hours. We're at the 2.5 hour mark again. That's the third week in a row we've done that. Been right at 3.5 or 2.5 hours. I've probably painted 1.5 to 2.5 hours on my miniatures every time. 1.5 to 2 hours probably. So 3 miniatures, 6 hours. It's pretty slow. This is a pet project. And my last 3 miniatures won't take 6 hours. But my first 3 did. What I will say is that if I was doing it for someone else, I probably wouldn't be doing as many layers. And I do have a little bit of in-between live stream adjustments. Like I'm going to get the flock ready. I didn't really do a whole lot this time. But yeah, I mean, you could throw a few minutes more on there for that. So that gives you an idea. 3 bugbears would go a long ways in any campaign. Buying a pack of bugbears would be good. Let me pull up Amazon right now, see if I can find anything really cool. I don't want to buy off of Amazon specifically. I'm going to look at other websites. But let's just see with the Black Friday specials what we have going on here for D&D Bugbear miniatures. If I can spell miniatures right, which is hilarious. So NECA has Thunder Dragon, Noel Zur's Marvelous Unpainted Minis Bugbears. Ooh. Crap. So my next thing I want to paint is Lizardmen. And they have some decent drow. What is this, drow? Surely this isn't... You get all 6 miniatures? No. I need to see product details. Okay. I think it's telling me I can literally get all 6 of these miniatures for like $10. It is. Let me show you. I gotta get this thing to load. First of all, let's look at these bugbears real quick. Give me a second. It's not a matter of that is a really tall, monstrous looking champion of an ogre like bugbear that's tall and skinny. Different than anything I have, and I think that's great. Then we have this. Which is going to be that clear plastic, I'm sure. And it looks like a drow priestess and a mage, maybe? And then look at these lizardmen. Now, why the lizardmen are important is this. Let me show you a project I started probably 2002, and I stopped for a long time. I'm going to switch camera angles real quick so you can look at it. But these are my lizardmen. Okay. Look at these lizardmen. 2002, long time ago I painted these. These are pewter. I feel like a touch-up after my bugbear. Finding more of these so I get more. These are all I have. I have a couple leaders. But this green with this yellow over it. Standing next to my bugbear. They look different and awesome. Same time. Anyways, definitely some cool ones. They're very flat, which is very typical of like the early 2000s. I got one more over here. And I have another one of these, and he has a two-handed stone mace. And I kind of want to get more of these. Maybe only one of these, but another one of the guys with a stone mace. And I'll redo the base so they match. But I feel like these guys kind of do it. So I'm going to put that on my list. What else? So a very yawn plastic Bugbear. I probably cut the horns off the head, to be honest. I probably put it on a different base. Of course, I'd repaint it. Just like the other plastic ones like these. Very similar type of sculpt. So now we're looking at Bugbear classes. We have the Bugbear Rogue. What was this? And Barbarian. These kind of feel like they fit my theme. I feel like that works. I don't have a female Bugbear, and I love that. But if I'm going to go into female Bugbears, I need a lot. Not just one with two swords. I'll save that. But as much as I love the fact that there's Bugbear females in that, if I'm going to go down that road, I need a lot. I don't want one. I want several. All right. Another interesting one. Feels like a lot of the cheap plastic ones, except this is not as cheap. There's also this dude. He feels like a different type of sculpt and not really my thing either. Certainly not for the price. Oh, speaking of interesting things, here's the actual Bugbear I have that's painted white. Why is that miniature $22? Wow, that makes me sick. This miniature is $22. You know what that means is I literally have like $88 for the miniatures that I primed white. I kind of feel like something like this would be kind of cool for like a one-off. Um, it's different, but for like another one of the big, like a different size category type of ogre, I feel like that kind of fits. I'll save it for now. Another cool looking big bugbear in a different type of armor. This dude. Sort of a leader type. When you're rounding out your tribe of people and you want something to stand out, I feel like that's good. We have oh no. So a lot of these look like cheap 3D printed stuff. And I'm not trying to do bugbear like this. Like, it's a different thought process. But something like this, yeah. This bestial wolfman looking thing with thing. I feel like that's my type of bugbear. Now I have 14 bugbear. I'm kind of filling out what I need. We have a bugbear knight. No, see, like I don't like this. That looks like some sort of cheap 3D printed trash with no detail, and I can't zoom in. A knight with some sort of saber or lance, cool. But that, no. Okay, one more. Again, this company seems to really get it right. This one's got scale again. It's got that bestial look. This one has 2 axes. Oh. So this says it's a bugbear. It doesn't feel bugbear. It feels ogre. Let me show you. I think it's the pose, the gut sticking out, the lack of other body hair, not just head hair. But there's 2 of these. They're also fairly expensive. Don't get me wrong. I like the dramatic detail and the fact that it's not overly detailed, but it doesn't feel like. See, that feels like an ogre. That feels like a cheap STL that I don't want. I don't want bugbears with top hats. This, I have. Quite literally, I have this. I have this dude. I don't know where this guy is, but this I like. This I want more of. And this is one of the things I realized is a lot of the really cool stuff like this. These old sculpts you can find on Amazon. Do I need 30 Bugbear? Never. Do I need a Bugbear Shaman? Yes, probably. Do I need 2? No. Here's another Bugbear female. So if I go the female route, I will consider that. But I need to find more females. All right, so one more female. It's not a Bugbear. I'm getting a lot of werebear and owlbear and like companion bear. And whatever reason, a bearded devil and a boar with an axe. It's kind of cool. I wonder how that actually looks. Kind of fits the mold. Very simple miniature. $10 a miniature, not really worth it though. All right, I'll continue to look. I'll look at some of the Reaper, Darkhaven, things like that. And we will go from there as far as miniatures go. And I'll probably keep it to less than 30 Bugbear. But I do foresee me buying some Bugbear. I want to round out what I have. I have good bulk troops. I just want a couple characters, and we'll go from there. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoy it. I'll see you guys in the future. Bye.